The mining planet Zirion 7 was a place where hope came to die. Red dust covered everything, and the air tasted like metal and fear. This was where the galaxy sent its worst criminals to work until they dropped dead in the tunnels. Zarathek walked through the prison compound, her tall reptilian frame hidden under rough prison clothes. Her people, the Velthari, were known across the galaxy as the strongest warriors. Their thick scales could stop most weapons, and their claws could tear through steel. But today, she was not here as a warrior. She was here as a spy. Her mission was simple: find the war criminal Geth Moran, and get the military codes locked in his head. These codes could end the war that had been raging across the galaxy for 3 years. The Velthari High Command had sent her because she was their best fighter and their smartest spy. But nothing had prepared her for what she was about to see. The other prisoners led her to what they called the pit. It was a large, circular arena carved into the rock, with metal walls that rose 20 feet high. Hundreds of aliens sat on crude benches, shouting and betting on the fights below. "New meat fights tonight," said a scarred Krillian prisoner, his forearms gesturing wildly. Some crazy human volunteered to fight the Razor Brothers. Zarathek's scaled brow wrinkled. Humans were supposed to be weak. During the war, she had heard they were soft creatures who died easily. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. How could one survive in a place like this? She pushed through the crowd to get a better view of the arena floor. 3 Krillian warriors stood in the center, each holding glowing energy blades. They were brothers, all 7 feet tall, with 4 arms each. Their skin was tough as leather, and their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. They had killed dozens of prisoners in this pit. Across from them stood a single human. He was not impressive to look at. He stood about 6 feet tall with brown hair and dark eyes. His skin showed many scars, and his clothes were torn from months in this terrible place. He held no weapons. He had no armor. He looked like he was about to be slaughtered. The crowd was already cheering for blood. The human's name was Marcus Chen, though Zarathek did not know this yet. She watched as he walked to the center of the arena with calm steps. He did not look scared. Instead, he was studying everything around him: the walls, the floor, the weapons his enemies carried. "Begin!" shouted the prison warden from his viewing box. The 3 Krillians rushed forward with their energy blades singing through the air. Any normal prisoner would have been cut to pieces in seconds. But Marcus Chen was not normal. He dropped low and rolled to the left as the first blade whistled over his head. The second Krillian swung down hard, but Marcus was already moving. He grabbed a handful of the red dust from the floor and threw it into the third brother's glowing eyes. The crowd gasped. This human was fast. The first Krillian spun around and slashed again. Marcus jumped back, letting the blade cut through the air inches from his chest. But as he moved, he grabbed the alien's wrist and twisted hard. The Krillian screamed as his arm bent the wrong way, and his energy blade flew across the arena. Zarathek leaned forward. This was impossible. Humans were not supposed to be this quick or this smart in a fight. The second brother tried to stab Marcus in the back, but the human seemed to know he was coming. He spun around and kicked the Krillian's knee with perfect timing. The alien stumbled forward, and Marcus grabbed his head and slammed it into the metal wall with a loud clang. The third brother had cleared the dust from his eyes and was coming fast. His blade hummed as it cut through the air toward Marcus's neck. Marcus ducked under the swing and picked up a piece of broken metal from the arena floor. He threw it hard at a hanging light above the Krillian's head. The light exploded in sparks and crashed down, hitting the alien on the skull. In less than 2 minutes, all 3 of the feared Razor Brothers were on the ground. They were alive but beaten badly. Marcus stood over them, breathing hard, but not seriously hurt. The arena fell silent. No one could believe what they had just seen. Marcus looked up at the crowd and spoke in a clear voice. "I'm not here to kill anyone, but I will protect those who cannot protect themselves." Remember that." He walked out of the arena like nothing had happened. Zarathek sat frozen in her seat. Her warrior training told her this was impossible. Humans were weak prey animals. But what she had just watched was pure fighting genius. This human had no special strength or speed. But he had something else. He could read a fight like she read a battle plan. He turned his enemies' weapons against them. He used the arena itself as his ally. Most shocking of all, he could have killed his enemies easily, but he chose not to. In a place where mercy was seen as weakness, this human showed honor. As she watched Marcus disappear into the crowd of prisoners, Zarathek felt something she had never experienced before. Her people valued strength above all else. They took what they wanted and crushed anyone who stood against them. But this human fought not for himself, but for others. The words came out before she could stop them, so quiet that only she could hear. "I wish he was mine." She did not understand what those words meant yet, but she knew that everything had just changed. For 3 days after the fight, Zarathek could not get the human out of her mind. She told herself it was just professional curiosity. As a spy, she needed to understand all the players in this prison. But deep down, she knew it was something more. She began watching Marcus Chen from the shadows. What she discovered made no sense. Every story she had heard about humans said they were selfish and weak. But Marcus spent his days helping other prisoners. He shared his food with the sick. He taught the weak ones how to avoid the gangs. He even helped fix broken equipment in the mines, using skills he had learned as an engineer. The other prisoners called him Guardian. They looked at him with something Zarathek had rarely seen in this place: hope. She learned his story from whispered conversations in the dark tunnels. Marcus had been a combat engineer in Earth's military during the First Contact War. When human ships had tried to defend a colony world, Marcus had stayed behind to make sure civilians could escape. The Velthari forces had captured him, and he had spent 3 years in this prison. 3 years. And he still had not given up his honor. This confused Zarathek greatly. Her people believed that only strength mattered. The strong took from the weak, and the weak deserved their fate. But Marcus was strong, and he used that strength to protect others instead of taking from them. On the 4th day, she saw him fight again. A group of Saurian gang members had cornered an old Zentorian prisoner who owed them money. The old alien was too weak to work, so he could not pay. The gang leader, a massive lizard-like creature with poison claws, was about to kill him as an example to others. Marcus appeared like a ghost from the shadows. "Let him go," he said calmly. The Saurian leader laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Human meat thinks it can tell us what to do? You got lucky against those Krillians. But there are 6 of us." Marcus looked at each gang member carefully. Zarathek could see him counting weapons, measuring distances, looking for weaknesses. It was like watching a master chess player study the board. "I'll give you one chance to walk away," Marcus said. The Saurians attacked all at once. Marcus moved like water flowing around rocks. He used the narrow tunnel walls to force the gang members to come at him one at a time, instead of all together. When the first Saurian swung his claws, Marcus grabbed a loose pipe from the wall and blocked the strike. The metal rang like a bell. He spun the pipe and hit the alien in the temple. The Saurian dropped like a stone. The second one tried to grab Marcus with his powerful arms. Marcus let himself be caught, then drove his knee up into the alien's soft belly. When the Saurian doubled over in pain, Marcus grabbed his head and slammed it into the tunnel wall. The other 4 came at him together, but Marcus had expected this. He kicked over a cart full of mining rocks, creating a barrier. As the gang members climbed over it, he picked up the rocks and threw them with deadly accuracy. Each stone found its mark: eyes, throats, sensitive spots that even tough alien skin could not protect. In less than a minute, all 6 gang members were on the ground. groaning in pain. Marcus helped the old Zentorian to his feet. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently. The old alien shook his head, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Guardian. Thank you." Marcus just nodded and walked away. Zarathek followed him at a distance. She watched as he found a quiet corner in the lower tunnels and sat down heavily. For the first time, she saw how tired he was. The constant fighting, the need to always be alert, the weight of protecting so many people, it was wearing him down. But he never complained. He never asked for help. He just kept fighting. That night, Zarathek made a decision that surprised even her. When Marcus was ambushed by 3 Keth warriors seeking revenge for their fallen gang members, she stepped out of the shadows, her claws extended, and she let out a low growl that made the Keth aliens freeze in terror. Velthari were the most feared warriors in the galaxy, and these gang members knew it. "Find someone else to play with," she said in her deep, threatening voice. The Keth ran without looking back. Marcus stared at her with surprise. "Thank you," he said. "But why?" Zarathek realized she had blown her cover. A Velthari helping a human would raise questions. But as she looked into Marcus's dark eyes, she found she did not care about her mission as much as she should. "Maybe I am tired of watching the strong pick on the weak," she said. Marcus studied her face carefully. "No," she agreed. "I am not." From that night forward, they began talking. At first, it was just careful words exchanged in dark corners. But slowly, they began to trust each other. Marcus told her about Earth, about his family who thought he was dead, about the home he might never see again. Zarathek found herself sharing things she had never told anyone. How her people's endless wars made her sick. How she had joined the intelligence service, hoping to find a better way to solve problems. "Your people and mine are enemies," Marcus said one night. "Yes," Zarathek replied. "But maybe enemies can still recognize honor when they see it." As the days passed, Zarathek realized that her feelings were becoming dangerous. She was supposed to complete her mission and leave this place. But the more time she spent with Marcus, the more she understood what she had whispered that first night. She did not want to own him like a possession. She wanted to stand beside him as an equal. She wanted to fight for the same things he fought for. Justice. Protection of the innocent. Hope in a hopeless place. But her commanding officers were getting impatient. Soon, they would send reinforcements to find out why her mission was taking so long. Time was running out. The message came through Zarathek's hidden communicator like a knife to the heart. Her commanding officer's voice was cold and impatient. "Agent Zarathek, your mission timeline has exceeded acceptable limits. Locate the target within 48 hours or face immediate extraction and disciplinary action." She stared at the small device in her clawed hands. 2 days to find Geth Moran and complete her mission. 2 days before she would have to leave Marcus and this place forever. But she had learned something important during her weeks of watching and waiting. Geth Moran was not just hiding in the prison. He was running it from the shadows. The war criminal had built a network of loyal followers among the worst gangs. He controlled the black market, the guard schedules, and even the warden himself. Getting to him would be impossible alone. She needed help from someone the other prisoners trusted. Someone who knew every tunnel and hiding spot in this place. She needed Marcus. The next morning, she found him in the medical bay, helping treat injured miners who had been hurt in a tunnel collapse. His gentle hands cleaned wounds and bandaged cuts, while he spoke softly to comfort the scared aliens. "I need to talk to you," she said quietly. "Privately." Marcus looked at her with concern. "What's wrong? You look worried." They walked to an abandoned storage room deep in the lower levels. Zarathek took a deep breath and made the decision that would change everything. "My name is Commander Zarathek of the Velthari Intelligence Division," she said. "I am here on a mission to capture a war criminal named Geth Moran, and I need your help." Marcus stepped back, his face showing shock and hurt. You're a spy. All this time, you've been lying to me. Yes, she said simply. But not about the things that matter. She told him everything. About the military codes. About the war that was tearing the galaxy apart. About how Geth Moran's information could save millions of lives. But she also told him something else. I was supposed to complete this mission and leave. I was not supposed to care about the prisoners here or about what happened to them. But I do care. I care about the weak aliens you protect. I care about the hope you have given this place. And I care about you. Marcus was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. How do I know this isn't part of your mission? How do I know you're not just using me? Zarathek reached into her jacket and pulled out the communicator. Without hesitation, she threw it against the wall, smashing it into pieces. Because I just cut off my only contact with my people, she said. If I cannot complete this mission in 2 days, I will be declared a traitor. They will hunt me across the galaxy. Marcus stared at the broken device. Why would you do that? Because there is something more important than following orders, she said. There is doing what is right. Marcus was quiet again, thinking hard. Finally, he nodded. Tell me about this Geth Moran. Over the next hour, Zarathek shared everything she knew. Geth Moran was hiding in the deepest part of the prison, surrounded by his most loyal followers. He had been using the mining equipment to build something. But she did not know what. Getting to him would mean fighting through dozens of well-armed criminals. It sounds impossible, Marcus said when she finished. For one person, yes, but not for two. Marcus smiled for the first time since learning the truth. You want to work together? A human and a Velthari? I have watched you fight, Marcus Chen. You think 3 moves ahead of your enemies. You turn their strengths into weaknesses. And you never give up. Zarathek's scaled face showed something like respect. I am strong and fast. But I am not as smart as you are in a fight. And I've seen what you can do, Marcus replied. Your claws can cut through steel. Your scales can stop bullets. Together, we might actually have a chance. They spent the rest of the day planning. Marcus knew the prison layout better than anyone. He had explored every tunnel and service passage during his 3 years here. Zarathek knew military tactics and had weapons hidden in her gear. But they would need more than just the 2 of them. That night, Marcus called a meeting of the prisoners he had helped over the months. They gathered in a large cavern that had been carved out by years of mining. There were dozens of them, weak aliens who had found courage, scared beings who had learned to hope. Friends, Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly in the stone chamber. Tomorrow, we have a chance to strike back against the gangs that have terrorized us. But I will not ask anyone to risk their life. This fight is dangerous, and some of us might not survive. An old Zentorian stepped forward. It was the same alien Marcus had saved from the Saurian gang weeks earlier. Guardian, you saved my life. You saved all our lives. We will follow you anywhere. Others nodded and voiced their agreement. A young Kethran female who Marcus had taught to fight spoke up. What do you need us to do? Well, Marcus looked at each face in the dim light. These were not warriors. They were miners, merchants, and mechanics who had been thrown into this terrible place. But they were willing to fight for something better. We're going to take down Geth Moran's operation, he said, and we're going to show every gang in this prison that their time is over. As the meeting broke up and the prisoners scattered to prepare, Zarathek pulled Marcus aside. You are asking them to risk everything, she said. They could be killed. Yes, Marcus agreed. But for the first time in years, they have something worth fighting for. You gave me the mission, but they are giving me the army. Zarathek looked at the determination in his eyes and felt something stir in her chest. This was what had drawn her to him from the beginning. This human did not just fight for himself. He inspired others to be better than they thought possible. Tomorrow would bring the greatest battle of their lives. But tonight, for the first time since arriving at this terrible place, Zarathek felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt hope. The attack came at dawn, before Marcus and Zarathek could reach Gethmoran's stronghold. Velthari dropships screamed out of the red sky like metal thunder. They landed in the prison courtyard with enough force to crack the stone beneath them. Armed soldiers in black armor poured out, their weapons already charged and ready. Zarathek felt her blood turn cold as she watched from the window of their hiding place. "They came for me," she whispered. "My people sent a strike team." The lead soldier removed his helmet, revealing the scarred face of Commander Thekvar, Zarathek's former mentor and the most ruthless officer in the intelligence division. His voice boomed across the courtyard through external speakers. "Prisoners of Zerion 7, we are here for the traitor Zarathek and the human called Marcus Chen. Surrender them to us, and you will be left unharmed. Resist, and you will all be executed for harboring enemies of the Velthari Empire." Marcus touched Zarathek's shoulder gently. "Your people know about me." "They know about us," she corrected. "Thekvar would not have come himself unless he believed I had gone completely rogue." They watched as the prison warden, a cowardly Graxian who cared only about staying alive, began pointing toward the lower levels where Marcus usually stayed. The Velthari soldiers started moving in organized squads, sealing off escape routes and searching every room. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they find us," Zarathek said. "My extraction window is now. If I go with them, they might leave the other prisoners alone." Marcus shook his head firmly. "They're not just here to extract you. Look at their equipment." Zarathek looked more carefully at the soldiers. They carried heavy weapons, the kind used for eliminating large groups of enemies, not for simple prisoner retrieval. Each soldier wore a device on their belt that she recognized with growing horror. "Molecular disruptors," she breathed. "Those can tear apart any matter at the atomic level." "They're not planning to leave witnesses," Marcus said grimly. "Everyone who knows about your mission is going to die." Before either of them could respond, an explosion shook the building. Through the window, they saw Gethmoran's heavily armed followers attacking the Velthari soldiers from hidden positions throughout the prison. The war criminal had his own agenda. Zarathek's communicator, which she thought she had destroyed completely, suddenly crackled to life. A voice came through the static. Gethmoran himself. "Imazanan Duthing. Cross. Gethmoran himself." Well, Commander Zarathek. It seems your people have come calling. How convenient." She grabbed the device. "Gethmoran, where are you?" The war criminal's laugh was cold and cruel. "Close enough to watch everything. I have a proposition for you and your human pet. Come to my chambers, in the deep tunnels. Alone. I have something that will interest you both." "It's a trap," Marcus said immediately. "Of course it is," Zarathek agreed. "But we need to know what he's planning. And right now, he's the only one who knows these tunnels better than you do." More explosions rocked the prison as the fighting intensified above them. The Velthari soldiers were winning, but slowly. Gethmoran's forces were putting up more resistance than expected. Marcus and Zarathek made their way through service tunnels toward the deepest part of the prison. They moved carefully, avoiding both Velthari patrols and gang fighters. The sounds of battle echoed through the stone corridors. When they finally reached Gethmoran's chambers, they found something neither had expected. The war criminal had built a massive workshop in the largest cavern. Machinery hummed and sparked as robotic arms assembled something that made Zarathek's scales stand on end. "A planet killer," she whispered in horror. Gethmoran stood before them, a tall, thin alien with pale gray skin and black eyes. His species, the Nethrakari, were known for their brilliant minds and complete lack of morality. "Impressive, isn't it?" he said proudly. 3 years of work, using the mining equipment and materials smuggled in by my followers. One shot from this weapon can crack a planet's core and destroy all life on the surface. Marcus studied the weapon carefully. Why show us this? Because, my dear human, your arrival here was not an accident, nor was Commander Zarathek's mission. Geth Moran smiled, showing sharp teeth. I have been in contact with certain factions within both the Velthari military and Earth's government. Factions that want this war to continue because it makes them wealthy and powerful. Zarathek felt sick. You're saying our governments wanted us to fail? I'm saying they wanted you to disappear. You, Marcus, represent the human spirit that refuses to be broken. And you, Zarathek, represent the Velthari honor that stands in the way of total conquest. Both sides find you inconvenient. The war criminal gestured to his weapon. But I have a better idea. Join me, and we can end this war on our terms. This weapon gives us the power to force both sides to negotiate. We can bring peace to the galaxy. By threatening to destroy entire worlds? Marcus asked. By having the strength to destroy them if necessary, Geth Moran corrected. Sometimes, peace can only come through the threat of total destruction. Zarathek looked at Marcus, seeing the same disgust in his eyes that she felt in her heart. This was not peace. It was tyranny backed by ultimate force. No, Marcus said simply. There has to be a better way. Geth Moran's smile faded. How disappointing. I had hoped you both would be more practical. Geth Moran's. Geth Moran's. Geth Moran's. Geth Moran's. He pressed a button on his control panel. Instantly, the chamber filled with armed guards, his most loyal followers, all carrying energy weapons. In that case, you will watch as I demonstrate my weapon's power. Your Velthari friends above will make excellent test subjects. Through the cavern's viewing screen, they could see the surface battle. The Velthari soldiers were winning, but they had no idea what was about to happen to them. Marcus and Zarathek exchanged a look. Without words, they both understood what had to be done. The weapon had to be destroyed, even if it meant their own deaths. But first, they had to find a way past 20 armed guards and one brilliant madman who held the power to destroy worlds in his hands. You have 1 minute to reconsider, Geth Moran said, his finger hovering over the weapon's firing control. After that, I eliminate the Velthari force above us, and then I send a message to both governments. Surrender, or I start destroying planets. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, thinking furiously. When he opened them again, Zarathek saw something that made her heart race with both fear and admiration. He had a plan. Marcus looked around the cavern with the careful eye of an engineer. The planet killer weapon was massive, but like all complex machines, it had weak points. The power conduits ran along the ceiling in neat rows. The control systems were centralized in one location. And most importantly, Geth Moran had built it using mining equipment that Marcus understood perfectly. 30 seconds, Geth Moran announced, his finger moving closer to the firing control. Marcus caught Zarathek's eye and pointed upward, then to the left, then made a small gesture with his hand. She nodded slightly. 3 years of military training had taught her to read tactical signals quickly. You're right, Marcus said loudly to Geth Moran. Sometimes you need overwhelming force to create peace. The war criminal smiled with satisfaction. I knew you would see reason. But you made one mistake, Marcus continued, taking a step closer to the guards. You assumed we would choose the easy path. Marcus suddenly dropped to the floor and rolled hard to the left. At the same moment, Zarathek leaped straight up with her powerful legs, her claws extending toward the power conduits on the ceiling. The guards opened fire, but their shots went where Marcus and Zarathek had been standing. Not where they were now. Energy beams sizzled through empty air. Zarathek's claws sliced through 3 power conduits in a shower of sparks. The lights in the cavern flickered and went out, leaving only the emergency lighting and the glow from the weapon itself. In the darkness and confusion, Marcus grabbed a piece of broken machinery from the floor and hurled it at the nearest guard. The alien went down hard. Marcus rolled behind a support pillar as more energy beams lit up the cavern like deadly lightning. "Stop them!" Gethmoran screamed. "Protect the weapon!" But Zarathek was already moving again. She dropped from the ceiling onto two guards, her claws and teeth tearing through their armor. Her Velthari strength and speed made her a blur of deadly motion in the dim light. Marcus spotted what he was looking for, a maintenance panel near the weapon's base. If he could reach it, he could overload the entire system. But first, he had to get past 8 more guards. He picked up an energy rifle from a fallen guard and started moving. Unlike the aliens around him, Marcus had learned to fight in Earth's military, where humans had no natural weapons or armor. He had learned to think, to plan, to use everything around him as a tool. He shot out 2 overhead lights, creating more darkness. He used the shadows to move between cover points. When a guard tried to corner him, Marcus kicked over a tool cart and sent the alien tumbling into his companions. Meanwhile, Zarathek was fighting with a fury her people had never seen before. She was not fighting for conquest or glory. She was fighting to protect innocent lives and to stop a madman from holding the galaxy hostage. Her claws opened throats. Her tail swept legs out from under enemies. Her powerful jaws crushed weapons and bones alike. In less than 2 minutes, half of Gethmoran's guards were down, but more were coming. Alarms were blaring throughout the deep tunnels, and the war criminal had dozens of followers scattered throughout this part of the prison. "The maintenance panel," Zarathek shouted over the noise of battle. 20 feet to your left." Marcus saw it. He also saw the 3 guards standing between him and the panel, their weapons trained on his position. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then, he did something that surprised everyone in the cavern, including himself. He stood up and walked straight toward the guards. Energy beams flashed around him, but Marcus moved like water, flowing between the shots with impossible timing. He had learned something during his months in this prison. He could read his enemies' intentions by watching their eyes, their breathing, their muscle tension. The first guard fired. Marcus twisted left, and the beam missed by inches. The second guard fired. Marcus dropped into a slide, passing under the shot. The third guard fired. Marcus leaped over a piece of machinery, using it as a stepping stone to launch himself through the air. He hit the maintenance panel and ripped it open with his bare hands. Inside, he could see the weapon's main power coupling, a crystal the size of his fist that channeled all the energy needed to crack a planet. "No!" Gethmoran shrieked, abandoning his control station to run toward Marcus. "You don't understand. Without this weapon, the war will continue forever. Billions will die." Marcus looked at the war criminal with sad eyes. "Maybe. But billions more will live free instead of under the threat of your weapon." He grabbed the crystal with both hands and pulled. The crystal came free in a shower of sparks and energy. Immediately, the massive weapon began to power down. Warning lights flashed red across its surface as systems failed one after another. Gethmoran drew a small pistol and aimed it at Marcus's head. "You have doomed the galaxy, you foolish human." The shot never came. Zarathek appeared behind the war criminal like a shadow of death. Her claws closed around his throat. "No," she said quietly. He saved it. With one quick motion, she ended Gethmoran's threat forever. The cavern fell silent, except for the dying hum of the broken weapon. Marcus slumped against the maintenance panel, exhausted. Zarathek walked over to him, stepping carefully around the fallen guards. "It's done," she said simply. "Not yet," Marcus replied, listening to the sounds of battle still echoing from above. "Your people are still fighting up there. And when they're done, they'll come down here." Zarathek nodded. She had made her choice when she helped destroy the weapon. There was no going back to her old life now. "Then we run," she said. "Together." Marcus looked at her with something like wonder. "You're giving up everything. Your people, your career, your whole life?" "No," Zarathek said, reaching down to help him stand. "I'm choosing everything that matters." They made their way through the service tunnels toward the prison's emergency exit. Behind them, the planet killer weapon finally exploded in a controlled collapse that shook the entire facility. When they reached the surface, they found something unexpected. The battle had stopped. Velthari soldiers and prisoners alike stood in the courtyard, looking up at the sky. Commander Thekvar was speaking into his communicator. "Command, this is Strike Team Alpha. The target facility has been neutralized. No sign of Agent Zarathek or the human insurgent." Marcus and Zarathek watched from hiding as the Velthari soldiers loaded back into their ships. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving the prison as they had found it. "They think we died in the explosion," Zarathek realized. "Good," Marcus said. "Let them think that." Over the following weeks, something amazing happened in the prison. With Geth Moran dead and his gang structure broken, the other prisoners began to organize themselves differently. Marcus's example had shown them that strength could be used to protect instead of to dominate. They set up councils to settle disputes peacefully. They shared resources fairly. They protected the weak and helped the injured. The prison was still a harsh place, but it was no longer hopeless. And when supply ships came, some of the prisoners who had served their sentences were released. They carried stories with them, stories of a human who taught aliens to fight with honor, and of a Velthari warrior who chose justice over her own people's empire. Marcus and Zarathek eventually found passage off the prison world on a smuggler's ship. They settled on a frontier planet where their past didn't matter and their species didn't define them. They built a small settlement that became a haven for refugees from the ongoing war. Humans, Velthari, and dozens of other species lived and worked together in peace. Late at night, when the twin moons were high and the settlement was quiet, Zarathek would sometimes remember the words she had whispered in that arena so long ago. She had thought she wished Marcus was hers, but she had learned something better. They belonged to each other, and to the dream they had built together. A dream where honor mattered more than strength, where different species could work together, and where even the darkest places could be lit by hope. The galaxy was still at war, but in their small corner of it, peace was possible. And that was enough.